Hey everybody, it's me, Shaw360. I'm sorry it took me a little bit to start, but a message came up that I had never seen before about choosing a moderator, and so it kind of threw me off. But hey, how's it going? This is the first of the promised recordings that I said I was gonna make for you guys. I told you guys I was gonna do Red Velvet and then RM, but I'm actually waiting on Red Velvet because they had four different versions of their new album come out, and two versions didn't come out until later, and I had to wait to order them. So I have the cake version, the one that's shaped like a birthday cake. I have the recipe book version, and I'm waiting on the S Mini, and I'm waiting on the Digipack. So once I get those, I will review Red Velvet, but I just wanted to get all of those versions before I started talking about Red Velvet because, yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna record and then go back and be like, oh, I'm gonna talk about them again just so I could talk about these two little pieces of merch. Same thing with Minho. Minho's new album, I think the physical is coming out on the 15th, 16th, but there's two drops. There's the plagiarism drop that comes out first, and then like 2 or 3 days later, they're doing an SM Mini and like a Digipack type thing. And so, yeah, I have to wait. And SM's getting on my nerve doing this stuff. I don't like it, but it is what it is. I gotta put up with it because this is their show. I'm just a monkey. So anyway, I got my two versions of RM's album. I've got this one here and I have this one here. I have not actually looked at these physically, so I'll be looking at these with you real time. There was a lady at my job because I get all of my albums delivered to my job, and so there was a lady at my job who got the package for me, and she's like, "What'd you order?" I'm like, "I ordered K-pop," and she's like, "Oh, let me see." And so I told her she could open this. So she actually opened this before I've had a chance to open it. So I don't really have anything pre-thought about this packaging because I actually have not seen it yet. So I guess we could start with this one that's already been opened. This is the smaller one, which I think this one's a really good idea. I think this is probably the more eco-friendly of the two versions because I don't think this one has a mini CD like how Essence been doing with Red Velvet. I think this just has like a card with a QR code for you to download the album. But it says on the front, record of RM Indigo, from the colors of nature, comma, human, comma, etc. Use it while taking a walk, a shower, drive, coffee break, work, dance, read a book, when flowers bloom or fall, the last archive of my 20s. And this says Indigo RM. On the side, it says record of RM Indigo, from the colors of nature, human, etc. Documentation of my youth in the moment of independent phase, tin blues included. And then this was printed with soy ink. This has sustainable paper, according to the badge that's on the back here. It's sustainable paper. And then it says sun bleached record, faded like old jeans. So there's all of that. We're going super artsy here. Let's open this package. I know it's already been opened, but I'm having a hell of a time trying to get it open again. Okay, there we go. See what's all in here. So there is this photo card here. Hopefully you guys can see it pretty good. It's just RM sitting on like a bench inside of someplace. I don't think this is a bus, but it looks like a bus bench. And then there's this Weverse card that came in it. And then there are some more cards in here. There's a lot of cards in here. I'm not going to go through every card because we don't have that kind of time, but there's a ton of cards in here. And then this is a photograph that is in there. Then it looks like this is a lyrics booklet, and it's an actual booklet, like it's got a staple binding lyrics booklet. And oh, okay, so this is called the Weverse albums version. I didn't know what the name of this version was. I wasn't really too concerned about it. And then I guess this is supposed to be different colors of indigo as well as some other art pieces. So I guess we should see some examples of what we have here. So we have some kind of artistic portraiture, artistic photographs. So like a pair of jeans. Jeans are usually, traditionally, jeans were dyed with indigo dye. Then we've got the plant. I don't know what kind of plant this is, but still. And then some more stuff here. I'm going to be going incredibly fast, guys. Don't have a lot of time. This picture is blurry. It's not my camera. This picture is actually legitimately blurry. Another picture of an ear. All right. Cute. I'm guessing that's a ceiling. I think all of these are supposed to be mood boards, and I say that because on the back of each one of these cards, it's got a song title on it. So like this one says number 2, is the song related to this, and then it's this kind of color palette. Then we've got this right here, number 9, which I think is Wildflower. And yeah, all of Hectic. This is Hectic, which makes sense. I actually kind of wish I had seen these before I wrote my review, because these are actually really interesting to me. Like these, some of it falls in line with what I've already thought about some of the lyrics and the tone of some of these songs, but I really appreciate that it's like, if you didn't get it already, look at this as well. So that's pretty cool. And then there are these cards, which are different. They're artworks. Um, they're all these blue artworks here. And they also have titles. So this is Untitled number 1 dash 2. This is Untitled number 2 dash 2. This is Untitled 3 dash 1. This is Untitled number 4 dash 3. And so on and so forth. So on and so forth. I don't know who the artist is of these paintings. It just says artwork, lettering on OHP film paper tape, Cinotape, captured at Art Studio from October 10th, 2002. Um, yeah, so I really don't know who the person is who painted all of these, but yeah, I think the whole thing was that they wanted this art vibe with everything, and so that's the reason why we get all this art stuff. There are a lot of references to art on this album, so not surprised that we would have all of this. RM is, he's he's kind of a intellectual nerdy kid, so whatever. I'm not picking on him. We all have our own interests, but I still think the packaging is a little pretentious, guys. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. And so now we have this bigger version here. This is the bigger version. I haven't opened this either. In fact, I have not even taken the plastic off. So I'm going to open this. The packaging on this feels very much like the New Jeans packaging. So I don't know if this is a new thing that Hive is trying to do with all of their groups. But this is that same super fragile cardboard that dents and damages super easy. I'm not a fan of it. I realize that, part of that is because they probably used a more sustainable material to make it, but it's just, I don't like the fact that it's damaged and I haven't even done anything with it. All I did was take the plastic off. The fuck? Okay, so inside of here, we have more stuffs. We have another one of these kind of like Polaroidy things. We have another card. This is a textured card. Like it's got, I don't know how to describe it to you, but it's textured. Like you see those lines and stuff, that's texture. It almost feels like a piece of cloth. Um, yeah, that's cool. This is the CD. Comes in a little CD envelope. Here is a hand a hand photo card. If you've been with the channel for a long time, you know that me and hand photo cards do not get along. The fuck. Um, but that's just a personal thing. It happened. It started with Big Bang, and ever since then, I'm like, fucking hand photo cards. So inside joke for the team. Another one of these art piece postcards, and then it's the same kind of saying from the album, from the outside of the album is there. Another picture of RM in his all white getup, because trying to keep it minimal, trying to keep it kind of artistic, I guess. There is a poster in here. I'm gonna try to open it up for you. That's the poster. And then there is a book in here. Okay, so the book, that's what the book looks like. And it's more of the kind of artsy stuff here. There's like the paintings, and then there's pictures of him wearing denim because indigo, I guess. Um, yeah, more art pieces. I'm seeing more art pieces, and then more pictures of him in this tan room, and him wearing the indigo by the painting that's on the album cover whenever you look at it on Spotify or other streaming services. I don't know if the picture from the album cover is in here or not. Well, I shouldn't say album cover, the download cover. I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it. Okay. But anyway, that is the album. I'm not impressed with the packaging. Like, I get that this was a motif packaging, and I don't have any problem with motif packaging. In fact, sometimes I find it to be extremely clever and really fun. It's just that, like I said, I'm not a fan of this form of cardboard. I think probably I like this version better. I think if I was going to put my money in either one of these, this would be the version I would go for. Um, Also, not for nothing, I get that RM is not trying to cash in on his idol appearance for this album. Instead, he's trying to craft art. However, he has to know people are buying this because they are a fan of him as an idol. And I think sometimes it's really off putting when idols try to make something that they want to divorce from their public image, yet they expect that same public to partake in that art. It's like either you want them to look at this because they know you and you want them to see this other side of you, or you don't want any of those people to be involved in this. And in that case, release it anonymously. Release it with nothing but the art pages, release it anonymously. But yeah, it's like, I don't want to acknowledge that I am an idol and I'm doing all these things, but at the same time, I know that I have a built-in audience because you know me from being an idol, and also a lot of the songs is going to talk about my experience as an idol. So come on, friends. Anywho, let's get into the album review because I wrote notes. So let's talk about the actual album itself. So this is Indigo, which is a documentation archive of his final year of his 20s. For those of you who aren't aware of what indigo is a dye. It is a color blue. So initially, I think indigo comes from the dye, but now anything that's in a deep, rich color blue that can be kind of washed out into a pure blue is considered indigo. So there you go, in case you didn't know. And I'm going to talk about it with the very first song, but the very first song on the album is a song called Yoon featuring Erykah Badu, and it's named after an artist named Yoon Hyung Kyung. And this artist is considered like an important member of an artistic movement in Korea called Dansekwa. I would not know this generically. I had to look this up. And that movement tends to be uh, minimalist art, very spare. It's art made after Korea's occupation by foreign bodies, and it's kind of like the time after the Korean War, um, up to kind of the current Samsung LG age, so like into the 70s and early 80s. And because this is a country where people were so war torn and were so impoverished, a lot of times people weren't able to keep a lot of things, I guess. And so being minimal was kind of a way of life just because people had to move to find funds. People couldn't buy a lot of material items because people didn't have a lot of money. And so um, this art movement was kind of collective feeling about the post-war era. And so that's where, even though these weren't artists who were all saying we are a part of this collective, it's just that this period in Korean art is kind of defined as this label, if you will. Kind of like how people say abstract art. Not everybody who participates in abstract art is like, yes, I'm a member of the abstract art team, but that style of art, they're all kind of considered abstract art. I hope that gave a little bit more clarification. Anyway, this song is named after this artist, and this artist actually, their painting is on the wall on the album cover that's on Spotify and Apple Music. And he didn't do as many blues in the era that he's most famous for. In fact, on the painting that RM has on his wall, I want to say that painting is like black and gray. But still, he did a lot of blues in the very beginning. The style of art tends to have a lot of blue. And so I think that's the reason why indigo is the preferred color that's being used for the motif for this album. Um, I pulled this paragraph off of Wikipedia because I thought it was important for talking about this song. So the paragraph goes as follows. It says, although Yoon Hyung-kyun was a senior member of the Dan Sekwa group. I'm sorry, I'm reading words that I'm not super familiar with, so if I hitch myself up, I'm trying my hardest. Was a senior member of the Dan Sekwa group. His preference was not to categorize himself merely as a so-called Dan Sekwa artist. Undergoing such turbulence throughout his early life, Yoon attached more importance to human beings, society, and nature than art itself. Corresponding to his own words, you can't make art from theory. I truly believe that eternal and fragrant art can only come from a pure and innocent person. So, yeah. Um, I pulled that out because, according to RM, this song is about the idea that in order to make art, you need to be human first. And being a member of BTS, because this is the part of time that he's chronicling here is from the time he was 28 to the time he was in his late 20s, like 29, about to be 30. During that time, he was at the height of like BTS stardom, right? And there wasn't a lot of time to be human during this era because like it was this thing that both the label and the group and their fans were saying like strike while the iron is hot, keep going, keep pushing, now's the time to achieve all of these milestones in your career. And because of that, I think that he didn't have time to just be human. And also like fame won't let you be human in a lot of ways. Like there's no way for somebody like RM to just go casually to the grocery store, buy like ramen noodles and soda and walk back home without at least one person recognizing them, one person asking for an autograph, one person taking a photograph surreptitiously. Like there's just no kind of human private time that he's allowed to have. And so a lot of times during the period of time that RM is pushing out all of these songs with BTS, whereas in the beginning of BTS's career, a lot of those songs were written from his life experiences. A lot of his contribution towards BTS's later work has been like, I'm lyrically gifted, or I'm a really good rapper, or I'm a really good songwriter. And so I'm honing those other parts of my craft because I really don't have the opportunities to work on the content part of my craft. I can work on being like the sharpest rapper, changing up my flow, having better enunciation. I can work on making sure that I build a better hook. I can work on making sure that when I'm translating things between Korean and English that my translations are getting better and better. But at the same time, when it comes to the content, I'm not adding anything new to the body of work that we're making content wise because the well is empty. There is no water here. I have nothing to kind of clutch onto to be able to give you new thinking, to give you new content, to give you new experiences. I just kind of can try to give you the best thing that I have in terms of quality, but not the best thing I have in terms of revelation. So I'm going to read a little bit of what I wrote here. I said, first things first, Erykah Badu. Her voice is so synonymous with an era of U.S. R&B soul music history from the late 90s to the late 2000s, from the mid 90s to the late 2000s, that even hearing her name makes you think of songs like Bag Lady, Tyrone, Didn't You Know, Other Side of the Game. So invoking her presence on this album, coupled with the backing track, are on their own signaling that we are going to go back in time into RM's early forays into Western music. Now, he says going back to when he was 9, I know RM is way younger than me, but how did a kid in South Korea end up listening to Erykah Badu when they were 9 years old? I just want to know. I don't know if it's because his mom is a big R&B head. Like, I don't know what was going on, but like, how did baby Namjoon find his way over to Erykah Badu? I just find that interesting. Okay, so I guess the primary purpose of this song seems to be him explaining the ways in which the system has manipulated him into moving further and further away from personal music and authentic storytelling. And he wants to write honest words, but since he doesn't have the opportunity to, he works on his song craft so that he can tell himself he's still an artist, even though he's not doing things that he considers to be artistic. So in the chorus of the song, there's a part where Erykah Badu is singing, and it sounds like it says, "You break your, you keep your silence before you do something." Now, RM writing these words, if he's saying you keep your silence before you do something, it makes you wonder like how many times during BTS's run has RM been faced with opportunities that he wasn't allowed to take, or he was told to do things by Hype that he didn't want to do, and he wanted to speak out about it, or he was thinking like I'm finally going to break my silence, but he was like if I do something, whatever I do could go away that I don't necessarily want. And I think that's one of the other big things you have to consider when you're talking about somebody like RM. He is not just beholden to himself, but he, as the leader of BTS, is beholden to the other 6 members of the group. He's beholden to the record label. He's got family who are relying on him to do his very best. And so I do think that a lot of things weren't necessarily his idea of what he wanted for the group, but he was told, like, this is the option that the team has come up with, and if you fuck this up for the team will be angry at you. The team will be damaged if you do something that's not going along with this. And I mean, not for nothing, I sometimes wonder if like songs like Permission to Dance weren't necessarily songs that he wanted to do, but they were songs that like this is good for the team, therefore we're going to make this song. So I don't know. I thought it was interesting. Now there is a statement in the song that I wasn't really jiving with, but again, I I try my hardest not to be like stuck in sadness because it becomes a cycle for me. So that's why I don't necessarily jibe with this particular philosophy. But he has this line in the song that says, "True art is sadness." And I don't necessarily think you have to be sad in order to make true art. I don't think you have to be miserable to make art. I don't think that you have to be a martyr to art. But also, saying true art is sadness to me feels not so much as him being pretentious and being like, all the greats were depressed. I think it's more of a Korean thing, to be honest with you, because Koreans tend to like a lot of sadness. And I'm not saying that to stereotype them in any kind of negative way. What I mean is like they love a good weepy ballad. They love a good weepy drama. Like they like a lot of emotional stuff. And so maybe for them, that tinge of sadness in their art is something that they all really appreciate. So it does feel like more of a mindset thing rather than, well, not a mindset, but a cultural thing rather than him being like, I don't appreciate other things. It's just like cultural wise, we are taught that this is kind of these two, sadness and art, go hand in hand. Anyway, let's keep going. Oh, I got the cards out on purpose. So he was saying that each card is emblematic, I guess, of the, he wasn't saying, it seems like he's implying that each image on these cards is emblematic of the tone of the song. So this would be the tone of the first song that we just talked about, Yoon. All right, next we have Still Life, which is a song with Anderson .Paak. And I wrote in my notes that when Anderson .Paak sings Still Life, it kind of sounds like Still Alive. And so I thought that was interesting because it's like saying Still Alive instead of Still Life. Whenever you look at a still life, especially like an old still life, a lot of times the image you're looking at is of something that's long dead. Like if you look at a picture, not a picture, but a painting of like a bowl of grapes, that bowl of grapes, if it was painted 300 years ago, those grapes are gone. Those grapes have returned to the earth. They do not exist any longer. They've rotted, decayed, went back into the ground. So when you're singing still life and it sounds like you're saying still alive, it's kind of like saying, maybe your perception of me is like a still life, but I'm still alive. Like I'm ever changing, I'm still moving. I'm not stuck in this moment that maybe your mind has me stuck in. So this is the picture that he has to go with still life, which is a flower. And you could say that this is a photographed still life if you wanted to. But yeah, in the song, there's a lot of art references. There's like, I'm a flower in bloom. I don't have a past. I don't know my future, stuff like that. And he says that he kind of compares himself to art in a museum, saying that you can't keep him in that canvas, you can't keep him on the frame, and saying that still lives are a memorial to a moment in time that has no past, sees no future, something perpetually in the now. Um, and I think that's really good that he does that in the first verse, but the second verse, it's all these kind of like this is to online critics and basically saying that, you guys are criticizing me, but you're poor and you owe money, whereas I'm able to take all this wealth and have life experiences. I don't know. I really didn't like the second verse. I thought the first verse was cool. The second verse, I was like, you can take that away from here. I don't even see how these things relate, honestly. But anyway, the music itself, the backing track, really bouncy, really fun, definitely what you would expect when you're talking about Anderson .Paak. So I thought that was a really good song. I don't necessarily think that this picture of this flower gives you any kind of indication of what this song is like, because this song to me is a lot bouncier than this. But there seems to be like movement behind the flower, so I don't know, maybe it's like trying to photograph movement, which is very difficult to do. But anyway, that's that. Also, I made a note here. There are these backing chants that I really like in the pre-chorus and behind the chorus that remind me a lot of early BTS songs. So I think production-wise, this may be one of my favorite songs on the entire album. It's definitely one that I would recommend listening to if you're not sure about listening to the other ones. Whereas Yoon definitely is kind of like a slower neo soul vibey sound to it. Sometimes you got to be in the mood for something like that. All right, so the next song is All Day featuring Tableau. And this portrait that goes with All Day looks like it is a picture of like a cell phone on top of a granite countertop. So don't know necessarily how that vibes with the tone of the song, but it is what it is. So this is what I wrote first listening to the song. I said, this is a song between two really cool music nerds, and I just don't have the capacity to get into it. So I was trying to read the lyrics, and a lot of it is having to be translated for me because I do not speak Korean. Tableau does do a lot of English, but he also goes back and forth between English and Korean. Namjoon goes back and forth between English and Korean. But I just didn't feel like there was anything cohesive in the lyrics. Um, the only thing that I felt maybe was cohesive is this idea of both Tableau and RM feeling like throughout the course of their careers, they have been attacked and criticized and over examined by people who really should just like leave them alone because they're doing just fine. They're okay. They don't need your input or your expectation to be forced on them. So, I mean, that's fine, I guess, but I don't know. I just felt it felt like a very insular song. It really did feel like two idols talking to each other and really not talking to the audience. And that's fine. It just made it to where I felt a bit of remove from the song while I was listening to it. Tablo has a line in English in this song that says, "We got DNA, no, we have dynamite in our DNA." I thought that line was hilarious. It's one of the only lines that I wrote down that I was like, I have to make sure I mention this when I talk about this album because really and truly, I just, come on, friends. Come on, friends. We got dynamite in our DNA. Come on now. Anyway, on to the next song. This is the next song. This is the song Forgetful with Kim Sawa is the feature on it. So this song very much sounds like this picture. Like if you could imagine like acoustic, kind of a coffee house, really comforting, waiting room in the lobby type of music, something that doesn't have a really fast beat, something that doesn't have a lot of instrumentation or it has like a lot of acoustic instrumentation, not a very full sound, maybe only three musicians playing along with the singer. That is what this song is like. And the image being blurry is actually pretty interesting because when I was listening to this song, I was like, hmm, are you trying to tell us something? So the song has a kind of Nora Jonesy coffee shop sound, which I told you about. And Kim Sawal actually has a really pleasant voice on this. Like, it definitely is something that I could see myself going back to maybe on a rainy day or a really like bleary day. But in the song, in the lyrics, he says that he was affected in his 26th year, and he talks about having memory loss and experiencing sadness. And to me, as a layman, as somebody who is not qualified to diagnose anybody with anything, especially not somebody I've never met, it really does sound like he's saying that when he was 26, he had clinical depression. And I only say that because there's also some lyrics in here about anesthetizing yourself to endless mornings and countless thorns, all while longing for nature and the memory of being one with nature. And I was like, does he need to touch grass? But let's look at this picture for a second, because like I said, I didn't see these pictures before I wrote my review. This picture looks like somebody who wants to go outside maybe, and like there's light shining into the room and they want to be a part of that light, but they're removed from it because they're in this room. Also, this blurriness. When there's countless mornings, when there's endless mornings, countless injustices, when kind of everything is blurring together and you don't remember specifics about anything and time no longer has meaning, this is kind of what your mind is like. It's like I know that something happened, but it just is kind of a blur to me because I wasn't able to process those things because my mind wasn't in the moment. And so, yeah, I think this picture does a really good job of expressing the way that this song sounds and feels. Okay, next we're at Closer featuring Mahalia and Paul Blanco. I really, 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 really liked Mahalia on this. I have not listened to a ton of Mahalia. I think I've listened to a couple of songs by her. I believe she is a UK soul artist. I liked her on this a lot. I liked her. Her feature is probably one of my favorite features on this entire album, which is crazy because Paul Blanco is trash. I will read you exactly what I wrote. I said, Mahalia sounds really good on this song. I'm not as fond of Paul Blanco. Who is he, and why does he have a Fetty Wap flow? So that's what I wrote. So this is the picture that goes along with this song. And as I was listening to this song, I had the impression of something. And now that I'm seeing this picture, I feel like something has been confirmed in my mind. So this is a picture of an ear. And I'm sure you're like, what the hell does this ear have to do with this song? So in the song, it sounds like it's about a lover of an indiscriminate gender. Like I don't hear a her, him, just like a lover. And it sounds like he is missing someone during the lonely hour in a hotel room and is just hoping that they like still want to be with him when they're finally together. Like he's like, this is somebody I'm missing. I haven't seen in a while. I'm bouncing from hotel room to hotel room. At night I get super lonely. We're on the phone with one another. Uh and we're doing what we can to remain close, but I want you closer. Like I want to be inside you. That is a lyric. He wants to be inside this person, but for whatever reason, that's just not happening. And this is as close as they're able to get. And with them only being able to get this close, will it grow their emotional distance so that by the time they see each other in person, that person may not want to be close with him anymore? So I thought that was interesting. I thought that was really, really interesting. But that's one interpretation. I said, or this could be some esoteric bullshit about how the muse of inspiration only strikes in the nighttime, and he hopes he can remember the song in the morning. So again, I am not a professional music critic. I'm not that smart. So I'm sure there are people who have better insights on this, but these are just my thoughts, how I feel about things. All right. So this is the photograph we get for the song Change, which is track number 6 on the album, and it's called Change Part 2. Why? Because there is a Change Part 1 featuring Wale, and my goodness, my notes about that were this: people were so shitty about the first change with Wale. Like, shitty to Wale, shitty about RM cursing, about sharing any part of BTS with Western artists. It was a whole shit show. Also, the original Chain song did have the disadvantage of this like punk kid trying to sound cool and deep because he was rapping with an admired MC. Because like if you look at the lyrics for the first change, it's like global warming, climate control, people need to be friendlier, we're losing humanity, blah, 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 blah. So, I mean, honestly, the song was like shallow in its attempts to be deep. But I don't think that he should be embarrassed about this. I wrote down, I think this is more of a growth experience than anything to be embarrassed about. So now we're on to this song, which is also called Change, and I called it The New Change. When I tell you, I hate this backing track. Oh my gosh. This is not my least favorite song on the album, but the track on this song, it sounds a lot like a Nine Inch Nails kind of warehouse rock electronica sound, and it's kind of disjointed, and I just do not like it. It's not pleasant to listen to, in my opinion, but this is an art album, so you're gonna do artsy things with the production, but I really dislike this song. Okay, so on to the lyrics. Um, I felt like the song was a personal attack towards me and people who listen to his music like me. So, if you've been watching my channel for any amount of time, you know that I discovered BTS right before Dark and Wild came out. I talked about how that was the first BTS album I ever pre-owned, and the first BTS album I've ever unboxed on my package on my channel here was "Oh Are You Late Too?" And a lot has changed with BTS. A lot that's changed in terms of their sound, in terms of their focus. Everything is way more polished, and a lot of it is way more removed from where they started, right? In this song, he is like, fuck my old interviews, fuck my old music, fuck the people who thought that they knew me, fuck everything about the old RM. In fact, fuck the name Rap Monster, which I think he might have been using around this time of change. And to me, that kind of felt like an attack. But I'm not going to take it as such. I'm going to take it as me needing to be a better person because the truth of the matter is, every human being that has the blessing and the privilege of being allowed to grow old is gonna change. There may be some shit that's fundamentally you that like is the essence core of your being that is not ever gonna change because like that's just who you are. That is you wholeheartedly deep in your soul. But there are so many other parts of your life that you're going to change on. Like if you believed when you were younger that Santa Claus was real and then you found out he wasn't, you changed. And it would be really silly for somebody to be like, well, when you were 6, you loved Santa Claus. Therefore, I'm taking you to the mall to go sit on Santa's lap. And you're like, but I'm 35 now. This makes no sense. So I get very much where he's like, you have to allow me to change. You cannot assume because you think you knew me then or you thought you understood what I was then that I was just going to stay in that place. Much like Steel Life, I'm constantly moving, I'm constantly growing, I'm constantly adding on to myself. And I don't want to be associated with people who aren't going to allow me to have that kind of growth and that kind of change. So that's why I say take one on the chin for me because I am probably part of the faceless mob of people who are like, well, I like the old BTS better. That doesn't change my opinion about how I feel about the music. I stand 10 toes on the fact that new BTS music has been mostly commercial sludge. But I will say, I know that he's changing, and if his change is growth away from the style of music that I liked when I first encountered him, that's his prerogative and that is his business. However, he does mention kind of like other people changing around him too. And as he's kind of like changed away from that little kid he was and like kind of the naivete he had as a little kid, a lot of the other people around him have also changed as well. And those relationships are changing because he's changing so much. Those relationships are changing too. And you have to wonder like, is he as close with other people? Like, as I've grown more away from BTS's music, has he personally grown away from people who were in his life when BTS first started? He's not as tight with those people. He doesn't have those same connections. So I found that to be kind of interesting to talk about as well. And he talks about how change is something to mourn. And that's kind of true because change, in order to actually change, you have to let go of things. You can't hold on to something and say, I'm changing, because, like, no, that thing is still there. And when you have to let go of something, there's a certain amount of mourning you have with that. Like, I'm certain that when he looks at this little kid, he's like, I am never going to be that kid again. But at the same time, he's like, but that kid was really sweet. And I'm sorry that I can't be that kid anymore, because there are some parts of that kid that I'd love to hold on to, but it just doesn't make sense to be that anymore after learning so much about life. So I thought that was interesting. All right. So the next song we have here is Lonely. This is the picture for Lonely. This looks like an empty room, a very deep room too. So there's that. And what I wrote is like, this song sounds like something really familiar to me, but I just can't place it. Like, it sounds like 2000s indie rock. It has less lyrics than the other songs, and it sounds like it was written in a hotel room on tour. And the song lyrics are basically like, I'm lonely, I'm going from place to place, and, I wish somebody would call. That's basically the main gist of it. And I was thinking about, like, okay, what mindset could he have been in when he was writing this song? And I guess they weren't going to, like, go to a hotel to take a picture so you can really get the vibe. But I'm just thinking to myself, like, imagine, if you will, that you are this super popular idol. You're going from place to place to place in order to promote music, in order to do touring, make money. You've got commercial endorsements, like, you've got business that requires you to be all over the world. Well, every place you're going is very different from home. And especially if you're somebody like the members of BTS, where you come from a country that's so homogenous that everywhere you go, no matter where you go, everyone speaks the same language as you, everyone reads the same language as you, everyone understands the same cultural touch points, most everybody has the same taste in food as you. Like, you and everyone around you pretty much share a very similar existence outside of, like, class roles. Then you leave that country and you go to places where the majority of the people do not speak your language. The majority of the people do not share your same cultural touch points. People do talk to you and they are nice to you, but you don't know if those people are talking to you and are nice to you because you are a nice person, or because they know you are at the star from BTS and you need to be catered to because that's their job, or they have the intention of doing something nefarious with you. So after you've been in countless interviews and you've taken numerous photographs and you've been on stage and you're in the hotel room at night, you're like, could really use somebody just to call me and make me feel like home because I'm not at home. But then on the flip side of that, let's think of the person that you're asking to have call you. You're asking someone who's still in their everyday life to call you. And it's not unreasonable to want somebody to reach out, but I'm thinking about somebody like myself. Not that I know RM or anything like that, but, like, I could not imagine what it would be like to being a friend or a partner of a super popular, very wealthy, very famous person. Because I have a normal schedule. I get up in the morning, I go to work, I'm at work for a certain amount of time, I have my lunch break in between, then I come home, I do stuff at home, and then I go to bed. And my schedule is pretty much the same every day. Somebody like RM, he's not always in the same time zone. He's not always having open spots in his day to be called. You don't know when calling him is going to interrupt him from a nap that he's needed because he's been up for 48 hours. Like, it's hard for someone at home to know how to fit into RM's life. And so saying, I wish someone would call, yeah, they probably do want to reach out, but, like, they don't know when they can reach out. They don't know when is a safe time for them to be like, hey, I was thinking about you. I just want to touch base. How are you doing, friend? They don't know if they can call you at 3 o'clock their time, because that might be 9 o'clock someone else's time and you're on stage. And so it's going to continue to be fairly lonely for him because you can't just be at someone's beck and call. Like, you want to be friends and you want to be in a fair, equitable friendship, but you can't give up your 9 to 5 in order to be able to call him whenever he's free. You don't expect him to give you a detailed, itemized list of his schedule so you know exactly what time you're available to call, and also trying to sync up all the time zones. Like, you have to live too. And so I imagine there's no cure for that kind of loneliness, because really, how do you cure a loneliness that the circumstance prevents you from being able to cure? So I don't know. That's just my thoughts. Okay, on to the next song. This song is Hectic featuring Cold, and this is the imagery for Hectic we have right here. As you can see, blurring lights, nighttime. This looks like this might be a table or a desk of some sort. This could be a record studio. This could be a club. This could be a restaurant looking out the window of the city. We don't know what this is. But anyway, I am a member of a cold household. In my household, we love cold very much. I will not hear any cold slander. However, I will say I don't think he's a very strong rapper. Please don't do that no more. All right, so on to the song. This song has a really kind of light, clubby disco beat, which I really appreciated. This is another one of my favorites on the album. And the song lyrics almost exactly match what you think you're hearing in terms of the backing track. Even if you don't speak the language, I think you would get the vibe. But the lyrics are also interesting because where the lyrics seem to take place matches the song perfectly. But it also seems like these lyrics are about someone who would like to be anywhere else but here. Like, throughout the song, it sounded like he's like, I'm in this room meeting these people, and the sounds are really loud, and the lights are really bright, and it's super crowded, but I just don't want to be here right now. Like, I know that everything I've done in my past was because I dreamed of being in these rooms. I dreamed of living in Seoul. I dreamed of being a big shot. I dreamed of making all these connections. I dreamed of meeting all these beautiful, fun, creative, amazing people. But like, I would just really like to remove myself from this right now, because this no longer feels like a privilege. This feels like a chore. This feels like an obligation. And so, I don't know. I think a lot of people have that feeling of, you don't know what it's like until you experience it. And that could be anything in life. Like, you don't know what childbirth is like until you experience it. You don't know what marriage is like until you experience it. There's a lot of things in life you don't know until you experience it. But that doesn't prevent people from wanting something. And it doesn't make people wrong for deciding they don't want something once they get it. Like, there's so many people who are in privileged positions in life, and they complain about maybe an aspect of their life, and folks are like, you should be grateful because I'm poor and you're not. And therefore, you complaining about your rich life, boo hiss, boo hiss. But I don't necessarily think that every experience is completely positive. Even like really good experiences can have some negative aspects. And I think it's okay to acknowledge, like, this was not what I thought it was going to be. This is not as fun as I thought it was going to be. This was not whatever else that I thought it was going to be. And I think that that's okay to acknowledge, like, I thought this was going to be one thing and it's something else. But he still loves having the opportunity to do this. Like, as much as, like, this is tiring because I'm doing this all the time now, at the same time, I've met some really cool folks. This is still a really cool town. I'm still really fortunate I get to do this. But yeah, tonight is just one of those nights where I really wish I could go home and just turn off the sound. So yeah, I like that song. All right. This next song is Wildflower, and this is weird. This picture seems to be of a plant that is on fire, but it's exploding like a firecracker. And I don't know what plant this is, so I don't know that if this is a natural response or not, or if this is a manipulated response. Like, I don't know if, like, there was a firecracker that they put on the plant, they lit the firecracker, and that's why it looks like the plant is exploding like a firecracker. But he does mention, like, uh exploding like a firecracker on the song. So yeah, that's what this is. I don't really have much to say about the song. I hate the song. I don't like this song. I don't like the music on the song. The girl who sings on here, Eugene has a cool voice. She kind of sounds like Avril Lavigne a little bit to me. Like it's a very kind of like rocker, very affected, accented vocal. But yeah, this is just another one of those songs like everything is overwhelming. I'd like to escape. I feel like a exploding flower. Yeah, I don't like this song. I think that the backing track on this song is corny, and that's another reason why I'm not a big fan of this song. But you know what? Good for you. And there are people who are going to really love this song. It's just not me, friend. It's just not me. All right. So this is the last song. This is song number two. Well, it's the 10th song, but it's called number two. So that's the reason why we do that. And I think this is a really adequate picture because in the beginning of this album, we have RM telling us about how, like, due to the constraints of his lifestyle, he hasn't really been able to make the art that he wants to make or that he's intended to make. And this song is kind of him giving himself an absolution of the ways he's been critical about himself and trying to come to peace with who he is now. And so that's why it's got this kind of calm, peaceful look to it. Um, I'm looking at this picture, and this looks like this was taken maybe on a beach somewhere, oceanside somewhere. But yeah, I saw a really interesting tweet on Twitter, and then it was followed up by a really interesting TikTok, and it has nothing to do with this, but I thought I'd mention it anyway. This is a picture of water. And somebody said, I was getting high one day and had a whole like examination thought about what if God is water. And then somebody else followed it up with like a TikTok of a man explaining like if God is water, these are all the implications. It was a really interesting discussion and I don't know. By the time I was finished listening to it, I'm like, yeah, God might be water. And I wasn't even high. I've never been high. But anyway, I've only been high once. And I was 17, so it doesn't count. Anyway, the song. The song basically, if he wrote the lyrics, the song starts out with Park Ji Yoon, who's the feature on here, like telling somebody that it's okay. It's one of those like you did well type of songs, but basically saying like don't be too hard on yourself. You'll be just fine. It's okay. You know, just grow. And in the song, I wrote in the lyrics, in the notes, I wrote I think this is RM encouraging himself as much as encouraging his audience. It's a kind of melancholic piano and jazzy drum tuny thing, and I dig it. There's a lot on here about forgiveness for everything that RM has been critical about and kind of shutting the door on his previous existence in the face of the grown man he's now become. And I wrote on here, a person cannot live in the past. A person is not a still life, but a thing in motion until its last breath. I'm not trying to be ableist with that metaphor. So, in the words of Erica Badu, who's on the first track, let it go, let it go, let it go, let it go. So I thought I was doing something there. Obviously, I was not, but I'll put it this way. You know, people do things, they are people that they're not always proud of. They hurt other people when they didn't intend to do so. And it takes a lot of growth. It takes a lot of self actualization to be able to reach a place where you know that you'll never do it again, where you know that you're a different person than you were, and you sincerely hope that you can make those things right. And if you live in a space where you're always critical about the things that have hurt you or hurt others, there is no room to grow. And I mentioned Erica Badu and the lyrics from Bag Lady because if you listen to the song Bag Lady, the initial chorus verse is like, Bag Lady, you gonna miss your bus. But you can't hurry up because you have too much stuff. So the metaphor for bag lady is that all the baggage that we carry, all the things that we're guilty that we did wrong, all the things that we feel like are chips on our shoulders, those can prevent us from having the room and the capacity to embrace something new. Those can keep us from becoming the person that we really would like to be and that we're working towards because we cannot let that other thing go. Now, I am conflicted because if part of the past that you have to let go is wrongs that you've perpetrated on other people, it almost seems like you're not the person to make that call. But over the last few years of learning and listening and trying to do better myself, I think when you harm other people, if you've tried to sincerely make amends, whether they accept it or not, you've done as much as you can do. And part of growth is like, that's got to be left here. And I don't think a lot of people acknowledge that. A lot of people feel like unless the other person forgives you, it cannot be let go. But no one is entitled to forgiveness. You can forgive yourself because you are you, but if someone hurts you, you're not obligated to forgive them. Just the same, if you hurt somebody else, they're not obligated to forgive you. All you can do is give it your best effort and then let it go. Really, let it go. You can still have like the traces of feeling bad, but you don't have to beat yourself up because you have done this bad thing. There are some things that you can do in this life that are unforgivable. There are some hurts that you can create in others that just cannot be swept under the rug, cannot be discussed any further. There's no making amends for. But for the most part, for some of the things like when I was a kid, I used a slur. When I was younger, I thought I looked so cool. When I was younger, I wrote this song that maybe hurt people, or maybe I said something insensitive, but I'm better. And I am better. I have learned and I have done things to make me better. And I think when that happens, when somebody has legitimately made themselves better, I think it's okay for them to move on, to really and truly move on. And I think that's something that with our current landscape, it is a lot harder for people to agree with. And cancel culture is fake. Let's just be honest. There's no such thing as cancel culture. There is outrage culture, but there is no cancel culture. I'm thinking about Letitia Wright. Letitia Wright said some really stupid shit during the initial bouts of COVID. She quoted a bunch of really stupid religious leaders. And honestly, I think a lot of what Letitia Wright did was somebody who was like a little bit self hating, trying to be ultra righteous. But she did apologize for those things. That doesn't mean that the people she hurts have to forgive her. It just means that she realized, like, that was wrong. My stance was wrong. What I did was not right. And I don't plan to ever continue that kind of behavior. I'm not continuing that kind of thinking. I am a different person. I've had literally years to reflect on everything, and that's just not me anymore. And there was an article that somebody wrote about like why she's not going to get the Oscar because of her problematic behavior. And she's like, but I've apologized. And I don't know why you're mentioning my name when you're doing a list of people who can't ever win an Oscar again, but you're also mentioning Roman Polanski, who was accused of sexual assault on a minor, and you're listening like Harvey Weinstein, who is accused of sexual assault on several women. Like, what I did was not that bad, and I've actually atoned. So why does this keep getting brought up? And, somebody like Letitia could absolutely read that article and continue to beat herself up. She could do the Will Smith apology tour 24/7. But she knows that she's better, and she knows that she's different, and she knows that she's changed, and she knows that she's learned. And she's not going to continue to force people to say, you're better and you've learned. Instead, she's going to continue to go about her life. And so I push this out to you. This album is an interesting little album. I really actually like it a lot. He uses almost all the producers on this album are producers from his previous mixtapes. They're producers from Mono. They're producers from the original RM mixtape. Some of his like one-off singles that he's done. But I think that's all because he really is trying to grow. I think Namjoon, as the artist RM, is really trying to grow. He's really trying to get to different places. And I think there's a lot of things he's wanted to say about articles and criticisms about the mistakes he's made, but he hasn't, because him talking about it would in a lot of ways make it an even bigger deal. But now he's like, this is how I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to talk about it in the way that I'm just going to say, this is no longer an issue for me. And if it's an issue for you and you're still stuck in my past, then that can be you. But I'm about to be 30 and I'm just not the same. So this is everything about that past. Here's me shutting it down. You can have it. Much like a still life frozen in time, that person will never exist again. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot. I think that if you are a fan of RM, you will enjoy it too. I still think that he should call himself Rat Monster. I don't think that RM is better than Rat Monster. I don't really like the name RM. I don't know if it's RM because it sounds like Adam, which is different in Korean. I'm not even sure what Adam means in Korean. I'm sure somebody will let me know, but I liked Rat Monster. I really did. But I mean, no matter what, even if he's considering that this album is an archive of his 20s and it's him revealing his true self or whatever else, the fact of the matter is, RM is not the same as Kim Namjoon. That those are still two very different people. And I think he's given us as much of himself as he can under the current environment they can. But we're still talking about somebody who's an idol. So there's only so much that you can take seriously when we're talking about this album, like really and truly, because he's still that guy from BTS. But anyway, I just wanted to share that with you because I thought that maybe you guys could appreciate this as a little discussion, a little talking point. Also, because like I don't think I know, I know for a fact, it has been a really long time since I looked at anything that BTS has done with any real critical artistic eye. Like almost everything they've done, I've talked about in the context of like it, don't like it. I've never really talked about like, well, what are they trying to say here? Like I haven't looked at like a true BTS lyrical intent in years. If anything, when I look at their lyrics now, I'm like, who gets up and drinks a cup of milk and plays a game of ping pong? Like it sounded weird to me. Uh but apparently ping pong is like really popular in Korea. I did not know that. I'm watching a K-drama right now called May I Help You? And ping pong, big component of that. Anyway, off topic. Uh, it's been a long time since I've looked at anything that anybody from BTS has done critically. And doing this now, I'm really hopeful. I really, really am. Uh, he's doing this now, and probably in another 2 years he'll be in the military because it seems to be the way things are going. Jin is going to the military first, and then I wouldn't be surprised if RM follows him immediately after. I think J-Hope might try to drag it out a little bit, but he's probably on his way too as well, since both of them are in their 30s, or they will be in their 30s Korean age. But I say all that to say, J-Hope's project wasn't my favorite thing, but I thought it was interesting. Jen, I haven't listened to anything having to do with Jen solo because it just totally is not my idea of a good time. I'm not a fan of Coldplay, and Coldplay helped co-write Astronauts, so like I knew it wasn't gonna be for me. But RM, this is encouraging. I don't know what else to say. I think hearing him kind of really reassess his artistry and saying like I'm ready to live life so that I can give more. I don't know, I'm really excited about that. I'm really, truly excited about that. And it makes me think that once all the military stuff is over and everyone gets to 2025, because that's what I guess him and Suga discussed, is that like BTS is coming back together in 2025. Once everybody comes back in 2025, I'm really excited to hear what a mature BTS album sounds like. What a BTS album with grown men who have had a chance to actually live their lives, what that sounds like. What kind of life lessons will RM put into his music? What kind of love lessons he'll put into his music? Um, what kind of explorations of self he'll put into his music? And not going from like, I've been reading Kant lately and I put this in there, but like just really him being like, I've experienced this and now I feel like I can advise on this emotion. I'm very, very excited to hear what second iteration of BTS sounds like, BTS 2.0. So yeah, that's all my thoughts on this. I know this was a really long talk. This was over an hour, and there are people who do not give a fuck about my opinions about BTS because either they hate the fact that I'm critical of BTS or they don't like BTS in general. But for those of you who have sat in on this and maybe got a little bit of anything from this discussion, thank you for being here with me for this because this is just really a different kind of video for me. And I will talk to you later. There are boys behind me playing football. I'm at a park, and it's like really there's like a group of white people with their dogs in front of me. There's a group of black kids playing football in back of me. And I'm about to shut off this live. And then I need to drive the fuck out of here and get back to work because I'm past my lunchtime. And I'm just wondering, like, am I going to have to run over somebody? I'm pretty sure I won't. But I'm just also thinking, like, everyone's around my vehicle. And I hate that everyone is so close to my vehicle right now. That's just my social anxiety talking. Anyway, thank you guys so much. This was fun. Bye.